Harper Audio presents Dead Ringer by Lisa Scottoline, read by Barbara Rosenblatt. Chapter 1. Bennie Rosato had waited for more than 100 jury verdicts in her career, but the waiting never got easier. The courtroom was empty, the air still. Bennie could hear the clock ticking on the paneled wall, but it could have been her sense of drama. She was sitting next to her client, Ray Finalil, who was gnawing his cuticles. If they lost this trial, Ray's company would have to pay $3 million in damages. $3 million buys a lot of cuticles. Bennie set aside her own case of nerves to cheer him up. "Yo, Ray, how do you stop a lawyer from drowning?" "How?" "Take your foot off his head." Ray didn't smile. His gaze remained fixed on the vacant jury box, with its black leather chairs swiveled in different directions. The jury had been charged on the law this morning, and they'd been out deliberating all day. That meant Ray and Bennie were entering their 6th hour of small talk. To Bennie, that was as good as married. "Okay, no more jokes," she said. "Tell me about your son's baseball game. I'll pretend I don't know about the home run or the catch at third base." "Second base." "See?" Ray's chin dropped to his hand. His brown eyes were bloodshot from 3 weeks of sleepless nights, and his cheeks hollow from the 10 pounds he'd shed during the trial, even though he was completely innocent. Being a defendant was no win. If you lost, you paid the plaintiff, and if you won, you paid your lawyer. This was known as the American rule. Only Americans tolerate law without justice. "Look, Ray, we don't have to stay here. I have my cell phone, and the deputy clerk has my number. How about we take a field trip? We can go see the Liberty Bell. It's only a block away." "No. This land is your land, Ray. This land is my land." "No." "Come on, it'll do you good to go out and walk around." Bennie rose, stretched, and took a personal inventory. She thought she was good-looking for a lawyer, even though she stood 6 feet tall and her proportions were positively Amazonian. Her khaki suit was still pressed, and her white Gap shirt fairly clean. Her long, disobedient blonde hair had been piled into a twist with a tortoiseshell barrette. But no makeup maximized the blue of her eyes or minimized the crow's feet at their corners. An old boyfriend had told her that her mouth was generous, but she suspected it was a sneaky way of saying she had a big mouth. At the moment, it was shaped into a sympathetic frown. "You don't want to take a walk?" "When do you think they'll come back?" Ray didn't have to explain who they were. End of today. Bennie sat back down. At least the stretch had shaken off some of her stress. She couldn't remember the last time she'd exercised. This trial had consumed every available minute for the past 2 months. But her law firm needed the dough. The slump in the economy had hit lawyers, too, and people had stopped suing each other. Could world peace be far behind? "I can't take another day of this. You're sure they'll come back today?" "Positive. This is a simple fraud case, in federal court only through the miracle of diversity jurisdiction. And Thursday is a good day for juries to go out. They get it over with if they come back today. Then they go home and make it a 3-day weekend. They won't go to work on a Friday after jury duty." "How do you know?" "Trial wisdom. The elders pass it down in a secret ceremony. We call it the bar exam to fool gringos like you." "But what are they doing in there for so long?" Ray rubbed his forehead with leftover fingernails. He looked older than his 51 years. And oddly, he'd become more nervous as the trial wore on, not less. Ray wasn't a lover or a fighter. He was an accountant. "A day is nothing. We just had a 15-day trial with 126 exhibits and 28 witnesses. You want them back sooner?" Bennie pointed to the empty jury box. "Keep watching those chairs. It works every time." Suddenly, the paneled door next to the dais opened, and the deputy clerk entered. He was tall and fit, and his polyester blazer made an officially swishy sound when he walked. When Bennie realized he was heading for her, she rose. "They back?" she asked, her heart beginning to thump. But the deputy clerk shook his head. "They got a question. They sent a note. Court's in session in 5 minutes.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?